One day, while Chatarji was busy with his work in his office, Sarathy came barreled into his room and said,
This isn't working, master.
What's not working, Sarathy?
It's been 5 years since I have joined you as a student. You have become a great detective and earned a reputation. But what about me? I am here still as a student. So I have decided to become one like you.
That's good idea to grow on your own. Then I will decide whether or not you have got that capability with just one question.
Sure, master. Please ask me.
Suppose there are two suspects in a murder case standing in front of you. How will you find out which one of them is the real murderer?
What's there to find in it? Ask them and they will tell you who did it.
Chatarji bursted into laughter on hearing that. Sarathy surprisingly,
Why are you laughing, master?
With this knowledge of yours, you need to stay with me for another 10 years.
Sarathy scoffed. Meanwhile, Chatarji got a phone call from Sub-Inspector Avinash.
Hello, Mr. Avinash. What's the matter?
Hello, sir. It's not about the case this time. I need some help from you.
Sure. What is it?
A bank employee, Mr. Praveen, went on tour to the Himalayas along with his wife for trekking. Unfortunately, his wife slid from the mountain and passed away. Her dead body went missing due to heavy snowfall. So we have to investigate the case and confirm that Mr. Praveen's statement is true. Only then the government will issue her death certificate. I am not able to prosecute as I was busy with some work. So I am sending him to you. Prosecute him on my behalf. I will believe you that this statement is true. I will sign the papers directly.
Alright. Send him. I'll take care of it.
I spoke to him and found that he was so upset about his wife's death. So please investigate him sensitively.
Sure. Okay.
After a while, Praveen came into Chatarji's office. He then took him inside and started prosecuting.
Mr. Praveen, we feel sorry for you and I can understand that you are in pain. But this is the police protocol. You won't get your wife's death certificate unless you undergo this investigation. I hope you will cooperate with us.
Praveen replied.
Surely, Mr. Chatarji. Mr. Avinash told me about you. Please carry on with your procedure.
Chatarji began prosecuting.
So, how did it happen?
Me and my wife went to the Himalayas for trekking to celebrate our wedding anniversary. While we were trekking on the mountain, my wife's support rope was cut and she slid off the mountain and she was dead.
Praveen started sobbing while explaining. Chatarji consoled him.
How was your marital life?
We had a love marriage. My wife's father threatened us that he wouldn't give us any dowry. But I married her thinking she is enough for me. We were very happy the past 5 years. But fate was cruel to us that it took my wife away from me.
Saying thus, he cried his eyes out.
Mr. Praveen, you are in a lot of pain. You can go home now. I'll come to you tomorrow along with S. Avinash to sign the papers. You can get the death certificate.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Chatarji.
He then left. Sarathy also cried on hearing what Praveen said.
I still can't believe that there are husbands in this world who love their wives so much.
Saying thus, he cried even more. Chatarji told Sarathy.
Don't get involved too much. I suspect that it's Praveen who took his wife to the Himalayas and murdered her intentionally.
Sarathy was surprised and asked.
How can you say that, master?
Give me time until tomorrow to prove it.
The next day, Sub-Inspector Avinash left for Praveen's house to sign the affidavit regarding his wife's death. On the way there, he picked up Chatarji and Sarathy. Sarathy was holding a bag in his hand. Avinash observed it and asked Chatarji.
What's in the bag, Mr. Chatarji?
You have to wait a bit to see what's in it. Let's talk about it after going into the Praveen's house.
Well, is that so important?
Very important than you think. You can't imagine what's going to happen there.
Avinash didn't understand anything and looked confused. Meanwhile, the car stopped in front of Praveen's house. Praveen saw them coming and walked to them.
Hello, Mr. Avinash. Please come. I'm waiting for you. Let's finish this up as soon as possible. I have to go and get my wife's death certificate immediately if you sign the papers, sir.
Chatarji then told Avinash.
Mr. Avinash, you can arrest Praveen.
Everyone there was shocked to hear that.
Why arrest Praveen?
Chatarji then explains to them like this.
My first suspicion about Praveen is that they have been married for 5 years. He neither celebrated any wedding days or her wife's birthdays before, nor went out to enjoy. But all of a sudden, He went to Himalayas this year. So I called the lady's parents and inquired about it. Praveen's father-in-law refused to give dowry because it was a love marriage. But Praveen, thinking that he will be the one to get their property in the future, married her. But exceptionally, Praveen developed an interest in money and dowry after the marriage. He sent his wife to his in-laws' house to ask for dowry and pressurized her so much, but of no use. So he came up with an idea to kill his wife and portray it as a natural death. And with his wife's death certificate, he can file a lawsuit against his in-laws to get their property. Even the insurance amount his wife had will be also in his hands. With his cunning plan, he took his wife to the Himalayas and intentionally murdered her and covered her in the snow.
On hearing this, Praveen stood speechless in amazement as his plan failed. Avinash then said,
Mr. Chatarji, your explanation may be right, but the court need evidence. A word isn't enough for the court, right?
Well, Mr. Avinash, do you think I said all this without no such evidence? I told you all this only after collecting proper evidence.
He took out some papers. He showed them to Avinash.
This is a record of Praveen talking to his father-in-law. He thought of resigning for the job and start his own business. This is the copy of the resignation letter. And thirdly, this is the copy of application he filed for the new loan. Finally, this is the most important evidence of all. After talking to Praveen yesterday, later that day I contacted the travel agent through which he booked the tickets for Himalaya trip. I obtained strong evidence there. That is, Mr. Praveen bought 2 tickets to go but bought only 1 return ticket. That means he thought that a second ticket was not at all required as he would kill his wife there anyway.
Saying thus, Chatarji handed over all the evidence to Avinash. Avinash also confirmed that Praveen murdered his wife and ordered a constable to arrest Praveen. He then turned towards Chatarji and said,
Mr. Chatarji, among all the cases you have solved till now, this is the most unique and amazing one that made you more special. Had you not solved this case, the woman's death would be in the dark forever. I am so proud to be your friend.
Then Avinash and Chatarji shook hands and returned from there. Chatarji then turned towards Sarathy and said,
Sarathy, listen carefully. The truth you need to know through this case is that a detective should suspect everyone related to the case initially. And then you need to investigate systematically and find the culprit.
Then the duo set off for another case.